Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to do chapter 238 of My Hero Academia. Hey everyone, hope you're having a good week. Hope the week has been nice to you, and I hope you keep having a great day. So let's just get into the chapter. So in broad strokes, in terms of what I'm thinking about the chapter, I read the chapter and what I see largely is this is a chapter where Re-Destro kind of falls in love with Shigaraki. That's what I kind of get the impression of. I get the impression that this is a chapter where Re-Destro is being won over by Shigaraki's display of strength and mental fortitude. I will point out which panels I think lead to that conclusion. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty hectic chapter. I saw that a lot of people were having trouble following the chapter in terms of action when it came to comments. That's very interesting. But yeah, it's a relatively short chapter as well, with about maybe like 13 to 14 pages if you count the double pages. But yeah, it's very interesting, and it's doing a few things. It's also one of those chapters that just kind of reminds me of like little criticisms I had at the beginning. Whether we talk about, you know, just the capacity of the Liberation Army. Like at the end of the day, we ended up in a situation where it didn't really matter how many numbers they had. Only certain people mattered, which was something that going in we knew. Like when it came to like the numbers battle, we knew somehow it was going to be fine, and that's what we got. Mind you, the use of twice as the means to combat the numbers, that was relatively unexpected, but it doesn't somehow negate the good amount of battles that were occurring when everyone was outnumbered, right? The overall point, what I'm trying to say is, like, we are quickly approaching the end here, and the Liberation Army is probably going to leave with a whimper. It honestly depends by the end of the chapter what happens to Re-Destro. We need to see what happens in the next chapter, because we don't know if Shigaraki is going to go vindictive or if he's going to be merciful. Already the Liberation Army has lost one of their key players in Curious, most likely, given how she fell, and given what everyone else said. So, you know, it's hard to imagine them having friendly relations beyond this if members survive. There's also the loyalty to Re-Destro as well. But then, you know, I have to call back to chapter 222, where Spinner was narrating that this was going to be the destruction of the League of Villains. You guys were here with me the whole time. I was pretty sure that, nah, not destruction. This is probably being used to kind of make it seem like something bigger than it is. And when you look at this chapter, I'm just thinking like destruction of the League of Villains could easily still mean the League of Villains absorbs Detnerat and they become the villains conglomerate or something like that, right? Who knows? I don't think that's Shigaraki's style. We still have a few chapters left, but I don't see destruction of the League in this when all the League members are running away. Maybe even Shigaraki abandons his initial group. Nah, honestly no. Shigaraki's made too many strides to character. So let's just jump into the chapter page by page. Let's talk about things and call it a video. So, like, oh, and also because of copyright strikes, we'll be doing it very carefully for this chapter. Anyway, page 1. Page 1 is pretty important in the sense that it's just to solidify an idea from the previous chapter to everyone reading the chapter to make sure there's no mistakes about it. This first page has a nice little moment where they show us a flashback of Shigaraki losing a hand and having to pick it up. That's just to remind us as the readers, like, hey, remember, Shigaraki had this very specific problem that he had to have that hand on his face. He would only ever feel comfortable if he had that hand. And then you have that being reinforced at the end of the page when he says the hand is no longer of any use to him. So that's just to tell you, in no uncertain terms, there has been character development with Shigaraki. It's just to reinforce that there. It's good use. The panels are appreciated because it's just a very nice little flashback there. And it also allows for a pretty cool page of Shigaraki. Next we go to page 2, which is largely a double page. Unfortunately for us, it's a fight page. And what I mean by that is that there's not really anything worth talking about happening in it other than, you know, other than the art looking good and just knowing that Shigaraki started crumbling the physical stress. I mean, neat stuff, right? But there's not much we can really say about that page. It's just action shots. Next we have page 4, which is again another action shot. It's just showing you the destruction of the city. Now, I'm actually kind of I wonder about the physics of this situation, because Shigaraki crumbles whatever the stress is, but it still releases a shockwave. And I'm just curious as to how Shigaraki maintained, or like was able to stand up to a shockwave that brought down cities. I mean, like, even if you take away the thing at right in front of you and you cause a shockwave around you, it's a shockwave. I think shockwaves emanate in a radial pattern, or a sphere, you know, like they come out as like you know, imagine like a circle ring or something like that. So I don't fully understand the physics there. The big point of the panel though is just to say, like, okay, this is a fight on like a massive scale. There's a lot of destruction here. This is a big fight. These people are like really using a lot of power. That's the big thing I take away from that page. And I just know, okay, like Shigaraki somehow nullified the initial effect of whatever was about to hit him. Again, it's a really nice looking page, but it just serves there to just ump up that scale of the fight. The other nice detail in the page is, of course, that Apocrypha leaves the situation with Dabi because he's going to go see what's going on somewhere else. I think he does end up near Gigantomachia later. Next, we go to page 5, which is just a nice full page shot of Shigaraki. So this is a really cool image of him. I still like that motif of the dark cape. Like his coat very much looks like a cape, and it's pretty cool to see it. But now this is also like us seeing unrestrained Shigaraki. It's pretty neat. I also noticed that Shigaraki doesn't have shoes on. So that makes me feel like, okay, Disintegrate got to his shoes. Makes sense. Makes sense that it would. Although I still wonder if Shigaraki can make Disintegrate propagate from his toes. I mean, if he can do it now from his fingers, I see no reason why he can't propagate from his toes. But we need more confirmation. A little bit more of a visual confirmation. But I think it'd be fair to say that he could probably propagate it from his toes. I feel like that's legal, right? Anyway, this is another just a page just showing off Shigaraki's look here. The author really went in with trying to make Shigaraki look pretty cool here, and I still very much do love the motif of the dark cape. Now page 6 is finally where we get to like some dialogue, some meaningful dialogue, because this is the page that starts really showing where exactly Re-Destro is landing in this situation. So we'll start with the first top part of the page. It's specifically the part where Shigaraki's saying, like, look man, I get it. It's fun to just absolutely obliterate things you don't like. So the reason that's important is because this arc has featured a lot of Re-Destro going out and establishing what exactly is the difference between him and Shigaraki, or the Liberation Army and the League of Villains. That's been the whole point. Or not the whole point, but that's been a large point of the Shigaraki versus Re-Destro conflict. That's been the theme that they've been debating over as they fight. That's been like the higher ideals that they've been philosophizing over. So when you have Shigaraki coming in and saying like, hey guy, I get it. You know, I'm like you. I understand that breaking stuff is pretty fun. I'm totally on your page. What you have to take away from that is now that it's gone from showing where they are different to showing where they are similar. And the reason that's important is because if we are going towards a Shigaraki and Re-Destro more or less friendly situation, then this is like the first step towards it. This is like Shigaraki being like, hey guy, I know you talked all this, but I get it. You're like me, man. That should be a giant insult to Re-Destro, knowing that he is like Shigaraki. So that's a really, really important statement. It's showing that there is some degree of understanding from Shigaraki to the other guy. And then, of course, because that is so inflammatory, you have Re-Destro doubling down. And so when he's saying that, you know, his power exists to liberate people and it exists to execute Destro's will, that sets up for something further down in the page, and I think on the next page. But it's also just denial. He is, again, trying to make those distinctions between him and Shigaraki clear. And then he kind of narrates where this is going for us, with him going like, what is this throbbing in my chest that I've been feeling? And then this is pretty much the most important line, because this is the one that kind of narrows down what he could possibly be feeling. So he's saying, is it fear? No, there's no way. My quirk converts fear to power too, of course, because fear stresses people out. That makes sense. That's actually a pretty cool call, to know that if you get scared, you can actually use more power. That's pretty neat. But then he's still contemplating. He can actively feel that his size is coming down. So it's not fear. That's pretty interesting. In the face of someone who just demolished your attack, you're losing, you're losing control a bit. You're becoming less stressed. That's really weird, right? Think about that. He's becoming less stressed as he's facing down Shigaraki. There's only so many feelings that can contribute to less stress. Then you have Shigaraki going in with this Re-Destro guy seems awfully stiff. Now this is important because when the moment he says awfully stiff, what's being implied there is that, oh, actually I'm noticing like on Germani's box, maybe it's not supposed to be Re-Destro. I feel like that would be just Destro by itself, but anyway, it might be a translation error or might be correct. The part about seeming stiff just says that there are rigid rules. Stiff really only comes with people who are following some kind of rule system. So already when you're talking about rules, where is the liberation within the rules? Effectively, you have to, the situation where you're coming to is a situation where, like society, you get to be free within a certain extent of the rules. Usually the rules will not infringe on your personal freedoms, but this is like the kind of line of thought that we're going into when you call something awfully stiff. Like there is a set of guidelines that someone's following, which is antithesis to the idea of liberation. And then we go into the little flashback with Rikia. And the big line, then we go to page 7, which I believe at page 7, that's like page 8. So I think that's like a roughly around page, that's total page 9 because of the double pages. Anyway, we go into that page, and the big line there is, Re-Destro's regrets now fall on your shoulder. So that's the big thing here. There is really no liberation when this guy has Re-Destro's regrets on his shoulders, because he's not free to live up to what he wants to be. He has to live up to what Destro needed to be. So already he's being limited in terms of what goals he's allowed to have. That's the big thing here. That's the thing that I think has to be taken away from the chapter. That's what I think the author is trying to build up as we're going through the chapter. It's specifically Re-Destro isn't liberated. So then we have again Re-Destro doubling down on page 7. Still questioning why his stress levels are reducing. Then he brings out the giant armor. Who knows where that armor was? Like Detnarat, they got the tech, whatever, not going to question it. But anyway, he puts on his stress amplification device. Honestly, it looks pretty cool. It looks like a neat design. It's unfortunate that Shigaraki's just going to crumble it, but it looks pretty cool. And the Re-Destro just says like this is 150%. I understand where the 150% is coming from. He's being exerted beyond his natural capabilities. This is stress, probably like stress that focuses by like just hitting his muscles a lot or something like that. I think it's cool. Again, it's a cool looking design. We move over to page 8, and you have Shigaraki starting the page off by being, I guess sarcastic, saying, well, ain't that great at Re-Destro getting to 150%. And here's where we get, it's kind of an intermission in the chapter, where we're just catching up with all our buddies. So the Dabi and Toga crew, pretty cool. They got Twice and Toga crew. They got Twice clones carrying them off. They're making a lot of little quips here. That was really good, but really the one that has the majority of the meat for this page is Mr. Compress, because he kind of leads into it. Mr. Compress is trying to get them out of there. Page 8 by itself isn't all that important. It just reminds you of the situation of our characters. Like we know like Dabi has joined back up with Mr. Compress, but page 9 is where I think we get some really good information. First off, we have the possibility that the teleporter gets tonsillitis whenever he transports something. Might be a lie, but I found that one a little bit funny, The next thing is that, you have the doctor drawing lines. It's like, you guys have to be more legit about this. Like, come on, I can't trust you guys. Come on. Don't let yourself be followed by some other kind of crew. The doctor's being reasonable, in all honesty. Like, there's clearly a structure to what they're doing. This just reminds you that this is all part of a giant plan, and the doctor isn't going to screw over All For One just to get them out of there. Then you have him also reiterating that if Shigaraki's going to be the guy they need him to be, he needs to be tested. He needs to really step up and be able to take down adversaries. So that page is just reaffirming where exactly the doctor lands on this, and this is a situation where I think it's largely tough love. Like, they need Shigaraki to be something in order to accomplish their goals. They can't just baby him forever. I think that's where the doctor stands on that. Next we go to page 10, which is Apocrypha's page of him trying to deal with Gigantomachia. Unfortunate that he went for Giganto. I think he might have been better off going for the CEO, but honestly he probably thought the guy could handle it, and honestly Gigantomachia is a threat. So that page is just, you know, reaffirming that Apocrypha and Re-Destro have a relationship. You know, he cares a lot of, the two look like they care a lot about each other, so good for them. Now, the big thing that I take away when you have that little flashback of them saying that Dobby's wide area fire attacks are a problem, well, this just reminds you that these guys were they grossly underestimated the league. They didn't estimate for the potential of growth in the league, so that was unfortunate. And then you have, effectively, with Apocrypha going for Gigantomachia, you have him changing his goals halfway through. Like he's giving up the initiative that was given by his boss to go deal with Dobby because there's just a bigger threat. And then he's also saying he's sorry for having caused worry. Honestly, that one, I'm reading that as if Apocrypha understands that Re-Destro was concerned about the kid, but I think that one just feels like the author's trying to put in as much as he can into the chapter. So I don't really see the overall point of that line, other than to say that Apocrypha is devoted to Re-Destro. Next, you have page 11, which is, as you could have guessed it, Gigantomachia wiping Apocrypha or just getting him out of the way. Ice doesn't matter, the man's still moving. And then we just have like the progress shot of Spinner. He's still very much going after the trumpet, so that'll be cool. But that's just a progress shot. They're also being chased by the people from the Liberation Army. Finally, at page 12, we return to Shigaraki. And this page is again continuing the destruction of Re-Destro philosophically. He's talking about liberation over repression. Unchecked usage of special abilities is but human nature. And then, you know, it kind of goes to the next panel with Shigaraki just unleashing more of his power and talking about plus ultra, which I thought was pretty funny. Shigaraki hitting plus ultra. I would say like this is definitely plus ultra for Shigaraki. He's going all out with his destruction, 150%. But then you have like the Re-Destro monologue, which I think really puts the nail in the coffin. It goes suffering, reawakening. This guy, it's as if he's been liberated from anything and everything, and then he says, "I see." So that's what the feeling in my chest is. So when you have these two panels together, that leads me to think that the feeling he has in his chest is excitement. It's like he's watching this guy who's been liberated from even things that Re-Destro himself isn't liberated, which I would assume is like society or like responsibilities or something like that, you know, because that's what's been kind of made up during the chapter. It's like he had the responsibility of living up to Destro's ideals. And then you have Shigaraki, who just looks like a bird to Re-Destro, right? So that's what I take away from those two lines together, is that feeling of awe and inspiration. Like him saying that Shigaraki's been liberated from anything and everything, and then you have the previous page of him saying that liberation is basic human nature, and that's like what he's going for. And then you have like the follow-up of suffering and reawakening, especially the suffering part. Like, yeah, it makes me feel like Re-Destro wants to hit the state that Shigaraki's hit. That's why he's inspired by the kid, because Shigaraki's gone far and beyond what Re-Destro could. So that's what I read in that chapter with the lines. I think when you look at the monologue leads you to a particular situation where you know that there is no fear in the man's heart, and whatever he does have in his heart is reducing his stress. It's like seeing Shigaraki makes him feel like he can be himself. That's what I really take away from this chapter. So when you have a situation where a villain is potentially feeling some awe, inspiration, and you have a chapter that also tries to establish that Apocrypha is super devoted to his buddy, to his leader, you gotta wonder, really, like, where are we going with this? Are we going to some kind of reconciliation? Are we gonna try to make the villains a threat? Hard to say. Like, we could go either way here. Shigaraki's crew could continue to be just themselves, but we already have confirmation. The League of Villain as we know it is going to be destroyed. That's from chapter 222. We know some variation of that's going to happen. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, where could we go here? It's like we're at a point where Apocrypha largely believes in survival of the fittest. He believes that the person who has the best quirk should be at the top of society. So him flipping over to the villain side, or sorry, you know, to the League of Villains, along with Destro if Shigaraki allows that opportunity. That makes sense to me, because their rhetoric would largely seem to imply that they're okay with just the guy with the best quirk being in charge. But we'll have to see. Right now, the chapter's been set up to a point where I think it's pretty likely that Re-Destro is inspired by Shigaraki. But you guys, let me know what you thought about that. Now, one last note that I'm going to say is that Shigaraki's using his quirk unchecked. You remember when we were told that quirks are like our muscles? You remember when we were told that like Bakugo using his sweat for extended period of times, eventually he'd get kind of dehydrated, or like, you know, his muscles would start hurting. We've seen like the effects before, you know, like Todoroki, he has to constantly regulate his body to be able to continue using both of his quirks. Yeah, man, like, what is the weakness to this? The man destroyed a whole city. Like, he's propagating destruction everywhere, and he's not even sleepy. Like, what could possibly be the drawback to this ability? Even Shizaki, with all his problems, got hives, right? We saw that pretty well in the guy. He only even had to use a little bit of it for him to get freaked out. So I have no idea what could possibly be the weakness to this. Shigaraki's not stopping, but I'll let you guys try and come up with that. I have no idea what the weakness could be. Maybe Shigaraki doesn't have a weakness in overusing his quirk. Maybe this is just saying that Shigaraki hasn't overused his quirk. Maybe he can destroy more at a faster rate. Who knows? But anyway, that's me. That's the end of that. Overall, I think it's a very interesting chapter. I think the monologue is very interesting. I'm interested to see if we actually do end up with a Re-Destro, or at least Liberation Army reconciliation or absorption into the League of Villains. Is the League of Villains about to climb back to the 100+ member number that it had at the beginning of the story? Who knows? But anyway, guys, let's call it there. Thank you so much for watching. This was a fun chapter, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.